Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate having this hearing today. This is an important issue to a number of my constituents, and receive certainly complaints about this, and a couple questions. And I'm sorry I came late. And to pronounce your last name, Ms. Farrow?
Farrow, that's correct.
Okay. Well, thank you, Ms. Farrow. I appreciate that. I appreciate your comment. All life is precious. That's actually not the official line of the administration, and I'd love to visit with you further about that and on a number of life issues. But I want to ask you a little more follow-up questions of my colleague from Colorado as far as the MAP study is required under the law. Was that required before you could finalize the restart rule, or was that just something you could do whenever you decided it needed to be complete?
The MAP 21 field study of our 34-hour restart provisions was something that Congress said complete. It did not connect it to the effective date of the rule. And the rule, of course, at the time had already been finalized for over a year and published for just about a year.
And it was being enforced?
Well, it took effect July 1 of last year, of this year, pardon me, July 1 of this year. Time flies, we're already in December.
And there was no way you could get it done in 12 months to have it completed?
No. The mandate, the MAP 21 mandate was something that we took on immediately as soon as that bill was signed to begin identifying volunteers, companies that would volunteer to participate in this kind of a field study.
I understand, but that's 16 months later, and you're telling me it's still not complete.
Yeah, our data collection was completed this summer, and the report itself is now under peer review.
So when do you actually expect to complete that study, and so folks outside the agency can actually review the study? There's some questions about previous studies from your agency.
Yeah, well, I'd like to say the upcoming months. I know one of the members just said in spring. Ideally, we'll have it to you in the first quarter of the next calendar year.
Do you think it's effective to start the rule and then proceed with the study to determine whether it's really needed or not?
Well, again, the lab study on which the rule provision that's in question today is based is a very solid study, a two-phase study, again, based on over a decade of sleep science analysis and discussion on this topic.
But the data on the truck crashes, how old is the data that's being used as the basis for this?
Well, we certainly used the large truck crash causation data.
And when is that from? Isn't that a decade old?
Yeah, that's correct.
10-year-old data.
Yeah.
And it still takes 16 months, still don't have this study done using 10-year-old data. Now, in that 10-year-old data, from, again, 2003, didn't it presume the baseline was, I think, 434,000 crashes per year? Is that correct?
Yes, and let's separate two separate things. The field study is not relying on any old data. The field study is relying on the conditions established in the congressional mandate under MAP 21. The 450,000 is a number that we used in some of the earlier research on the hours of service rule. That's correct.
And so the crash data you're using, though, is 10 years old?
Yes, and we have carried out an analysis moving forward using more current numbers that weren't in existence at the time we were developing this.
And is this analysis public?
Actually, we just completed it based on the criticism that came out, I think, this week from one of the trade associations.
The analysis that you're is it public? Is it published, ma'am, or is it still internal?
I will certainly make it public for the record.
So an answer it has not been public as of today?
No, again, we just got the claim yesterday from one of the.
Well, I know it's taken you 10 years to update. I understand that takes time. I mean, you're using 10-year-old data. We have a 40% decrease in the crashes as part of this. And then it's taken you 16 months. You're still not done with the study. You still haven't released it at all. It's still internal. You don't know whether it's even going to, well, you're saying it's not even going to be released this year, sometime in the spring. And then you come here and tell us you know exactly what the impact is when you don't have the study. It's not been peer-reviewed, obviously. It's not been made public. I mean, this is what actually upsets my constituents. They understand the desire for safety, but they want it to be based on science.
That's right.
And ability to actually work with folks that are in the field, that do it every day, that drive a truck every day. And they're telling me this is not working, and it's not making sense. There have been independent studies that have confirmed that, in my opinion, and it's costing us money. And I think it's hurting, particularly our independents that are out there driving. And one last thing, I see another issue. National Pork Producers Council had proposed an exemption. Where is that at?
That is under consideration, and let's put that in two pieces. But I want to quickly back up and remind you again, you're combining data in two separate studies. The Washington State University lab study, on which the 34-hour restart is based, is a two-phase substantive lab study, peer-reviewed, and absolutely solid outcome based on decades of sleep science research, unrelated to the crash data that you were referring to, which was also part of the reg analysis, not part of the sleep science analysis. With regard to the exemption requests by the Pork Producer Council, yes, they in fact did submit a request for an exemption from the 30-minute break, having nothing to do with the restart. The agency, in recognizing that last year's summer heats were extreme, I granted a one-time 90-day waiver. I have the authority to do that, so that over the summer, from the time July 1 of this year, that the pork producers and the other livestock industries they were representing were operating, had a break from the 30-minute requirement. They also submitted an exemption request for a full 2-year exemption from the 30-minute break. That's under review today.
And do you anticipate granting that, or what's your estimation?
I'll wait until, again, I agree with you. We are very focused on research, data-driven decisions in a very open process, and so I'll let the data and the research.
But the exemption request that you did grant, that was based on data?
That was a waiver request. That was not an exemption request. It was a 90-day waiver recognizing the impact that heat has on livestock and the extreme heats we had the summer before.
Well, there's extreme heats every summer. I'll note as well, ma'am, there's extreme cold as well. And as far as animal welfare, that is a very serious issue. Yeah, and so I appreciate your continued look at that, and I would ask you to extend that as well. And I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Understood. Thank you.